Today we're going to be going over the diplomacy lifestyle trees here for Crusader Kings 3, and we'll be explaining what each of these perks does. We're going to use Mr. Tutorial here, Merchant of Munster or Ireland, I guess, eventually, as our example here because I think that these diplomatic perks here can be really, really helpful for someone in a merchant's position trying to form a kingdom. I should mention these lifestyle focuses as well. You can pick any one of these and it opens up all three trees there. You can see if we try to pick a perk right now, it says we have to choose a focus first. So it's nice that you're not locked in to any one tree depending on what focus you pick. They all become available. So we can just pick any one of these. If I'm playing as merchant, I might want the extra prestige every month because prestige is the primary currency for declaring war there. So I'll go through them left to right. So the first one here is the thoughtful perk here. It gets an extra opinion gain from sending gifts, so it doubles the opinion gain there, which isn't particularly useful in the early game as merchant here, but once we become a king and perhaps have quite a bit of money to spare there, we may be able to send gifts and pacify our vassals maybe there. So it could be useful down the road. But usually the next one I go to here is Ducal Conquest. It lowers the cost of title creation, which is especially important because when we are forming the Kingdom of Ireland there, it's going to cost money. So we just saved ourselves 20% of that cost there. And we get the Ducal Conquest Casus Belli, basically a war claim there. That's what Casus Belli means. If we hover over that, it allows the seizure of counties required to create an uncreated title of duchy rank. So this is quite useful in a merchant situation there. We do have a number of duchies in Ireland that have not been created yet. So once we end up holding land in an uncreated duchy, we can make use of this casus belli in order to conquer the rest of it, essentially. Usually the next one I grab right after that is this one. This is a favorite of mine ever since Crusader Kings 2, Forced Vassalage. This is another Casus Belli that you get there, another war declaration that we can use there. And if we hover over that one, it says that it allows for the forceful vassalization of neighboring independent rulers of a lower rank. So we can vassalize any ruler that does not have more than 3 counties in their realm. So for merchant here, this is especially useful since we are holding a duchy here, a petty kingdom of Munster, and we're pretty much surrounded by counts. If we go back to the default view there, we've got counts, 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 counts. We're surrounded by neighboring rulers of a lower rank. So with the forced vassalization perk there, we can essentially gobble up all of these counts, force them to bend the knee and become part of our domain. And those vassals will count towards the titles there required to form the Kingdom of Ireland as well. But yeah, this perk is basically my cheat code for merchant here. We're in a perfect position to do exactly what this perk says, so we can conquer pretty much with impunity. The next one that I usually try to grab after that is defensive negotiations. It gives a buff to your vassal opinion, which is great after you just conquered a bunch of people there. And it also gives a buff to independent rulers as well, which could be helpful once we become kings, since we're surrounded by England and Scotland. And we kind of want them to not be hating on us right away there. You could even use this perk to propose an alliance with one of those neighboring powers, or also sometimes I make an alliance with one of the Scottish or English dukes there, just to bolster my troops as I'm conquering all my future vassals there. The next one I think that I would normally go for is flexible truces here. It gives shorter truces and no prestige penalty for breaking them. It really depends on what you want to do with Merchad once you become king. If you're going to try to take on Scotland or England, you may want to have shorter truces with them to grab as much territory as you can, especially if they're in a weaker position. If they are much stronger than you, then you might not want to choose this perk because you want your truces with them to last as long as possible. In which case, you might go for embassies instead here. Grants you a buff to learning a language, so you can learn can learn Scottish perhaps, and you get a buff to your diplomacy for every alliance that you hold. So it really kind of depends what kind of king you want to be. If you want to be a peaceful king, choose embassies here. If you want to be going to war more frequently, you might want to grab flexible truces. And this one all the way down at the bottom, I kind of feel like it's kind of redundant at this point. I kind of wish this one was swapped with thoughtful there, because once we've gone through all the rest of this tree, we don't actually need to forge claims anymore. As I pointed out, pretty much these two perks, Ducal Conquest and Forced Vassalage, give you claims, give you casus bellis there, that you can use rather than forging claims. So I just don't really need this perk once I get down to the bottom of the tree there. But it does also unlock the Bloody Wedding, if that's something that you're interested in. I've never actually done that one yet. Um, or you can buy claims on artifacts. I didn't actually know you could do that with this perk, but if that is something you're looking to do, then you might want to grab this perk. Usually at this point, I'm just picking it up because I want to get the finisher perk, the Diplomat there. So this one is the final perk in the tree, and once you pick that up, you get a separate trait on your character there, and Diplomacy +3, a big buff to independent rulers, which again can be really helpful with Scotland and England next door, and a personal scheme power of 25%. So helps with swaying, romancing, anything like that. So yeah, that covers off the diplomat tree there. And as I mentioned, it's a very conquest heavy tree here with two casus bellis on the left side, and the ability to break truces if that's something you need to keep going to war. So kind of underused, I think, when it comes to conquering characters. So next tree here is the August tree. It pretty much deals with prestige, and this is primarily useful for tribal or pagan characters whose primary currency is prestige. Tribal characters can improve their armies with prestige, and pagan characters have conquest casus belli that is linked to their prestige level there. So, if you are playing in one of those areas, I highly recommend the August tree there. So, we'll start from the left here. Benevolent Intent. This gives you a buff to your sway scheme power. So it can kind of go nicely together with thoughtful here, which gives opinion from gifts there. So once you have both of these perks, you should be able to pacify anyone that you need to there. This one on the right firm hand gives you extra prestige per your dread level. So every character has a little iron fist symbol there, which denotes how dreadful they are. So essentially, the scarier of a person you are, the more prestige you're going to generate. And going back to the left side here, inspiring a rule, monthly prestige is bumped per powerful vassal on the council. So this is definitely useful if you've got a lot of vassals. Keeping in mind we're probably going to be using the forced vassalization perk as per chat, so the more vassals that we put on the council, the higher prestige we are going to generate. And on the right again is Praetorian Guard, monthly prestige per night. This is also a very good one for Merchad, because we are probably going to be going to war a fair bit, and then our knights are going to generate some prestige back for us there. So far the right hand side of the tree has been most beneficial to Merchad there, but this one as well I really like to grab for him, which buffs acceptance of vassalization. Of course we could vassalize a character by force, but should Merchad ever tire of war there, this will buff their acceptance so we can vassalize someone peacefully. This one down here, writing history, can take a decision to commission an epic. Could be something that Merchant wants to do once he obtains his birthright there and becomes King of Ireland. Maybe he wants to commemorate that day there. Going down the left again, a life of glory. Level of fame impact is doubled. This increases the modifiers gained from your current level of fame. So we can see up here that we are currently established and there's no effects. So that perk wouldn't really do anything for us, but if we became distinguished, you can see that we are getting a small opinion boost, an extra knight, and I'm not sure what base value means, but basically the Life of Glory perk would double these effects. Dignitas is diplomacy per level of fame, so as we become, distinguished and illustrious, we get an extra diplomacy perk. This actually could be pretty good for Merchant here because his diplomacy is so bad from the jump that as we become more prestigious and become king, it might be good to buff our diplomacy there. And finally, August is the final trait in this tree, and it gives a buff to diplomacy, martial, and prestige. We are honored as a true ruler, worthy of the empires of old. So yeah, again, this is probably a very good perk for Merchad, as he is a military character, so we get that martial bump, but also improves our poor diplomacy. And the final tree on the right, family hierarch. This is the final tree on the right here, and it deals mainly with close personal relationships such as your family or your friends. On the left side here, we have befriend. We can use the befriend scheme and play board games with our friends there. So I think that some cultures already have the befriend scheme. I believe some Iberian cultures have it by default there, but If you don't have that cultural perk, then you can grab it here. And over here on the right is Groom to Rule. I do like picking this up if I have a lot of children, because they receive 1 to 3 extra skill points. So, for example, if I had a son, this perk would give him an extra 1 to 3 points there, depending on what what education my children are undergoing. On the left, confidence. Each friend reduces stress gain to a maximum of 5. This is useful as well if you've got a stressed out character. Just reduce some of the stress that they may have, especially if you've got a lot of friends. Your friends dying could give you a lot of stress, so picking this up just reduces some of that pain there as your ruler gets older. This one on the right, Heart of the Family, gives a buff to the opinions of your close family. And this one over here, Flatterer, gives a buff to the befriend scheme power. So it would tie in nicely with this one here, since now we have the option to befriend, and now we are more likely to succeed at befriending. This one over here, Bound by Blood. This gives you a buff to schemes against your family. You can also rescue a house member if they've been imprisoned, perhaps by a conquering or a pillaging Viking there. You can also unify the house. So you can reclaim house members from another realm as a vassal. Interesting. So if perhaps someone in your family becomes a vassal of another realm, this would allow you to uh, usurp that land and make that family member your vassal. I did not know that. That's actually very interesting. I would say that this perk is probably the most useful to merchants since we are in Ireland and it's possible we will be raided by Vikings there. It is possible we may need to rescue some family members, and if we're able to put them on foreign thrones there, we could potentially uh, use that as a method of conquering there. And now we're in the middle of the tree, friendly council. So each of your friends will give you 2 random skill points to a maximum of 5. And this one here, sound foundations. Each living child gives you 1 random skill point. So this one kind of goes in first with Groom to Rule. Here, each of your children are getting a skill point, and now, now they're giving it back to you. So again, if you have a lot of kids, that could be really useful. And finally, the Patriarch trait is the final perk in the tree, and it grants you fertility, stress loss, and buff to opinions of family or house members. So yeah, that is the family hierarch tree. Probably the least useful of the trees when it comes to Merchant himself. But I actually really do like this Bound by Blood perk. I think they must have added these extra Casus Bellis because I don't remember them. But they could definitely be quite useful there. And yeah, that is all the perks under the diplomacy lifestyle there. I think it's quite slept on that some of these can be very useful for a conqueror. You don't necessarily have to be a diplomatic character to benefit. So I hope this video was useful to you in your campaigns. Do feel free to like the video or leave a comment. And of course, consider subscribing to the channel. We'll be going over the other lifestyles as well. So thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time on Crusader Chronicles.